We're joined by Braxton Winston. Braxton, I'm going to pull up on the screen here some images from North Carolina today. Share it. It is incredible. Most of the major school districts in the state are shut down. We'll pull this up on the screen. I mean, when you guys closed the biggest school districts, I was down there 2018 when you guys did it for Red Bread. They called it "It's Personal." They encourage people to take personal day. Obviously, this is dramatic footage here. And North Carolina, what, you guys have the second lowest union density in the state, no collective bargaining rights for public employees. How'd you guys pull this off?
Well, we got to give it up to the North Carolina Association of Educators. These folks have been working very hard over the past few years, and they have the grit, and they have been working very hard to build solidarity across the state over many years. Right? I think it's a good reminder for folks in this work, folks in this labor movement, that we certainly there are things that can change immediately. But this is long work. We operate in the canon of the movement, and these folks at NCAE certainly understand that. So they had a plan. They have plans, and they're executing on it. I'm grateful to be a partner with them.
And what's North? Obviously, I knew your predecessor, Mary B. McMillan, well. Big shoes to step into there. She comes out of the UE initially, some other unions, and my father was UE organizing director, was heavily involved in the Durham sanitation strikes. I mean, despite not having collective bargaining rights in North Carolina, you guys have done this again and again. What makes the North Carolina labor movement so special in such a tough state?
Well, I think we're small but mighty. We're gritty people. We also have, we're a large state that has diverse ecologies, whether you're in the mountains, the central Piedmont, or in eastern North Carolina. This collusion between politicians and government has been around for a long time in terms of trying to erode the rights of workers. But in those situations, our communities have figured out over time, again, how to build in solidarity and how to fight for our rights within the really strange structures of North Carolina. I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, right, to the son of a New York City firefighter and a New York City school teacher. I always knew that there were two types of jobs, right? There was a union job and there was a non-union job. So when I came down to school, when I came down to college, and I got the chance to work as a stagehand under an IATSE contract, it was certainly the concert of Missy Elliott, Beyonce, and Alicia Keys in 2004 that had me excited for doing the work. But it was also the fact that it was under a union contract, right? That I didn't know that unions existed in the South or North Carolina. The corporate state has done a great job in controlling that narrative. And we have become experts on how to take back that narrative to tell our story. When we tell our story that unions do exist and we are here, in fact, fighting, sometimes invisibly, but are able to be effective, it draws people to our movement. I will say we also have the benefit of being a growing state. People are migrating from different parts of America, particularly the Northeast and the Midwest. So in places where unions culture is stronger, folks are people like me are inserting that into the DNA whenever possible. So we have a small but mighty movement. When I'm walking around the General Assembly lobbying on behalf of workers, people do remind me, while we might have 125,000 members, that might sound small to other states, there's probably not another membership organization with that many members, with that type of political power. So we learn how to insert ourselves into the fights, into the work, using our leverage in ways that other states don't have to think about it. And it builds our grit and it builds our resolve.
Obviously I was good friends with Saladin Muhammad, passed away a few years ago, and, spent a lot of time there in North Carolina. And it really impressed me, a lot of the pre-majority organizing that goes on, and the combination of it, in the state, how do you guys pull that off? How do you instill in folks this sort of intensity?
Well, it's a big focus for us right now is education and narrative building. Right? We are look for ways to build coalitions amongst community, and build the necessary bonds with those community partners. Because we are very realistic as a movement. We might not haven't always been the best community partners, right? We'll go organize a shop, get what we need from the community, and move on. We can't do that here in North Carolina, right? We have to be good partners in the fights for things like affordable housing, economic justice, good paying jobs, and find ways to be part of the economic development conversations. So that really is the focus of the North Carolina State AFL-CIO right now. How do we build those community labor coalitions? How do we build those community those labor faith coalitions, because the faith communities are really important. So we really kind of build those strong bonds so that we're everywhere when our partners are where our partners are at, even if we're not physically there, and vice versa. So we can't do anything without community, and we use our good name, our trusted name, our trusted brand, as a strength in that.
And it's interesting because obviously Indivisible, a number of other groups that are non-unions got behind this call. What does that say about these sort of relationships at this time?
Well, again, like I just said, I think our brand is strong, right? We see that nationally, but we also do see that in the state. Again, when people realize that there are actually unions in North Carolina, right? When we go into these neighborhoods, when we go to these work sites, when we go to to people's congregations, people are excited to know that we exist because they have been told in so many shapes, form, and fashions that unions don't exist in the South. But folks are bought in, and look, let's face it, folks are tired. Right? Folks are tired of being screwed by people in power. And that is on a bipartisan basis, right? Yes, we have a General Assembly that has supermajorities of Republicans, and they have not they're not being good to working people. But the North Carolina General Assembly was controlled by Democrats for literally 100 years, right? This past March, we worked in municipal races across the state to get rid of bad Democrats who are not making decisions on behalf of working people. So we call balls and strikes, which is very important down here in North Carolina, where the biggest divide actually is not Democrat or Republican, it's urban versus rural. So there are so many different levels to the divides here, and therefore so many different levels for the coalition building that needs to happen for us to be successful. And we're playing on all of those different levels.
Well, Braxton, we got a full host. There's all kind of workers striking, calling in. I look forward to having a deeper conversation at one point. I'm really excited to meet you.
Thank you for having me. Happy May Day. Happy International Workers Day. Y'all keep going. Solidarity.
Solidarity.